This week I'm driving the 2022 Hyundai Ionic 5. For 2022, Hyundai enter the new generation of electric cars with the Ionic 5. It's a pretty original car compared to everything on the market. The Ionic 5 will compete against models like the Tesla Model Y or the Mustang Mach-E. The Ionic 5 share the platform with the Kia EV6 and also the new Genesis GV60. Pretty cool, you know, it's not pretty much the same design. You know, this Ionic 5 doesn't look anything like the EV6 or the Genesis. I think the Kia and the Genesis look a little bit more similar, but this one's way different from the two other ones. And I really appreciate when a manufacturer do that. The model I'm driving this week is the most expensive and also the fully equipped one. It's called the preferred all-wheel drive long-range model. So that means we have two electric motors joined to a 77.4 kilowatt battery. With those two motors, we've got an all-wheel drive system, and this means we've got 320 horsepower and 446 foot-pounds of torque. Now I'm going to test the acceleration. I'm going to put it in sport. Pretty easy. We've got a button right here in sport, and there we go. 100% torque. There we go. You can do the 0 to 100 kilometers in about 4.5 seconds, 4.4 0 to 60 miles an hour. Pretty decent. It's not the most aggressive, you know, acceleration on the market, I could say. Probably inside of a Model Y or a Mustang Mach-E, it's a little bit more aggressive. On the road with the Ionic 5, I think the approach of the Ionic 5 is mostly focused more on the comfort than the handling. I feel like the Kia EV6 was a little bit more sportier, I could say. It feels a little bit more sharp when we push it down the curve. This one is kind of like smooth and wiggly when we push it, but still fun to drive. I think it's a great daily driver. It's comfortable. It handles well the bumps and the puddles on the road. Really comfortable on that side. I was expecting a sharper handling down the curve, but still on the road, pretty comfortable. You know, that's the thing with the Ionic 5. It looks kind of like a sporty hatchback, but it's kind of like oversized, obese version of an hatchback. First time I saw the Ionic 5, I thought it was kind of like a Volkswagen Golf, but it's not the case. It's way bigger than that. Once you see it in person, you notice it's quite big, and it's a sport SUV, I could say. You don't have any real ground clearance to do any sort of off-roading or something like that, but you're higher off the ground than a normal car. Speaking of the looks of this car, pretty unique. From my point of view, it looks kind of like a retro futuristic look. I really like the front end. It's really original. It doesn't look like anything on the market. I like those retro square lights in the front and also in the back. The pixelated rear lights, really cool. It looks like kind of like a 80s arcade game. I really like that. You know, the overall shape, really cool. We've got that two-tone paint. This week it's kind of like a light blue with silver. Pretty original. Not my cup of tea, but still, it's different from anything on the road. Pretty big wheels also, kind of like a full wheel design. It matched really well, this design. Overall, I think Hyundai had been doing a home run with that design. I like when the manufacturers are not just copying the the other ones and doing something similar and change a little bit the design. Now with that design of the Ionic 5, from far away you can say this is an Ionic 5, and I'm not able to really mistake this car for something else. Stepping inside of the Ionic 5, really clean design. We've got more buttons than the EV6. It's a little bit more practical, but not as good looking and futuristic inside. One thing you can notice, there's no Hyundai logo inside. I think this is part of the plan of separating the Hyundai brand from the Ionic brand in the future. So we've got those 4 dots on the steering wheel, and also we've got some dots on the seats. We've got 2 screen, typical screen we found in pretty much all the new Hyundai products. I wish we could have like a black background for those screens. It would look better, and also it will look like just a complete screen, just like the one we found inside of the EV6. But everything is plain and simple. We've got a lot of buttons here. Obviously they try to remove more and more buttons, so there's some stuff like the heated seats. We have to do a couple of steps and not just press a button, but everything else, it's easy to understand. We've got the screen with our range and the battery, the cluster in front of us, also easy to understand and really clear. Something pretty unique is the gear changer. It's a lever here close to the steering wheel. You're not able to move it. It's just like the tip of this part. You're able to turn to put it in drive or in reverse, or press at the top to put it in park. This is pretty original. You have to get used to it, but you get used to it pretty quickly. So this means you've got more space in the metal console. This metal console, you're able to move it to have more space. A lot of space here also in the metal. I've got a place to recharge our phone. We've got some USB ports and all that. Really a lot of space here in the metal part. Because this is an electric car, we don't have the transmission and all the drive shaft and all that stuff. A lot of space for my head, my shoulder and all that. The seats are pretty comfortable, but unfortunately this week I was not really able to find my ideal position for driving. I wish we could lower a little bit more the seats. I'm sitting pretty high, a little bit too high, but this is like typical Korean and Japanese car. I think all the engineers are pretty short. But I think, you know, I'm pretty tall also, so I'm 6'3", 300 pounds. So if you're tall like me, maybe you're gonna feel you're sitting pretty high. But if you're a normal stature human, I could say, you're gonna really like it sitting in those seats. And because it's an electric car, we've got plenty of space in the back also. You've got more space than the Ford or the Tesla products. That's a big plus. Really comfortable in the back, plenty of space. I brought the 3 kids this week with me for a long trip, and we had no issues. It was pretty surprising. If we take a look at the trunk, plenty of space. You've got also more space underneath that floor. You can open it up. If you need even more space, there's a small cargo area under the hood, under the engine cover. This is really where you're gonna keep like some emergency stuff or something you don't want to have access like all the time. But still, you got that tiny cargo space there. Always thought it was kind of funny. Or at least you're able to open the hood. It's not the case these days with most EVs, like the BMW iX or the Mercedes-Benz EQS, but still you got that tiny space right there. Range wise for the Ionic 5, depending on the models, it's in between 350 kilometers or 480 kilometers for the one I'm driving this week. So far what I've seen this week, I never really reached the 480 kilometers. The most distance I was able to do with a full charge was around 400 kilometers. Not bad on this side. If we're looking at the recharge time on the level 1, so normal outlet at home, it's gonna take you 37 hours to get a full recharge. On a level 2, it's gonna take you around 6 hours and 45 minutes or 7 hours. Level 3, depending on the DC charger you're using, There's some 50 kilowatts or also 350 kilowatts. So if you're using the big one, if you can find one, it's gonna take you 18 minutes to get a full charge from 10% to 80%. This is really impressive. And also you can get 111 kilometers in just 5 minutes on a fast charger. So what this really means, this week I plugged the Ionic 5 2 times on a 50 kilowatt fast charger. Basically the Ionic 5 was about 30% of battery left, or maybe less than that. And after an hour and a half, less than 2 hours, I was able to get a full charge on a 50 kilowatts, running at 50 kilowatts, because it's not all the charger who's running at their full capacity. So that's pretty decent. Price-wise, the Ionic 5 starts at $47,535 Canadian. And the model I'm driving this week, it's good for $62,735 Canadian. After rebate here in Quebec, after the federal and provincial rebate, this Ionic 5 will cost you around $51,428. Pretty decent price-wise, especially after the rebate. From my point of view these days, I think, buying a $50,000 electric car might be equal to a car whose the price is around $35,000, but it's a gasoline one. When you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month in gas, it makes a big difference. I think you can step up to probably a higher price in the electric car and save on the fuel. Just me reviewing cars each week, just having an electric car per month, it saved me a lot of money, at least $200 to $300 per week. So every time I've got an electric car, I'm saving a lot. Even if I'm using those fast charger, those quick $12, it's nothing compared to filling up, a full tank of gas, especially when I'm driving big pickup trucks, or even my own car, my GMC Yukon. When the gas, it's more than $2 of a liter, it makes a big difference. So overall, what I think about the Ionic 5, I was expecting a little bit more. There's a lot of hype around this car. A lot of people put it in the top position, top podium. There's a lot of hype around it. I'm not that impressed by this car. Personally, I prefer the Kia EV6. The look inside, the way it was driving, the seats, the position and all that. This car is a little bit too quirky for my point of view. I'm really old school, a car guy. This car has got the shape of a smaller car, but it's been oversized. And from my point of view, it's something that really kind of annoys me with that two-tone and all that. I really, really appreciate, what Hyundai is doing and be different from everyone. But for myself, buying a car, it's not my cup of tea, I could say. And just the way, my position of driving, the handling, the performance and all that. Great daily driver. But if you're more a car enthusiast like me, you're gonna prefer driving the EV6 or the Mustang Mach-E. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this Ionic 5? Do you prefer the Kia EV6? Or are you gonna wait to spend a little bit more on the Genesis GV60? Let me know your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And we're gonna see each other on the next review.